Hi, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Meg, and this is Ger Can Get It. This week, Rachel, I think we've discovered the origins of the never-nude.
If they gave awards for makeouts on screen or stage, this guy would get a lifetime achievement. He'll find any excuse to get right to sucking face. You honestly wouldn't believe it. Dissecting each and every kiss with tongue. There's only one conclusion to come to. It's that Ger can get it. Ger can get it.
Right? I mean, this is a compelling argument.
This. I sent you that screenshot that was like the plot of this movie is unknown at this time. Because I was trying to find it on IMDb, and it's like, I think there was a movie called Paid Vacation sometime around the year 1979.
I am deeply... Okay, so before we go any further, this week we're discussing A Paid Vacation. As you said, it's a I think, TV movie from 1979 in Canada. We were very kindly gifted a VHS copy, or not gifted, allowed to borrow a VHS copy from Michelle from the Forever Night Facebook group. So I just want to give her a little shout out and my eternal thanks and gratitude, because otherwise I have no idea how else we were going to find a copy of this 1979 Canadian made-for-television movie. I mean, this is... So, like, I want everyone in the audience to be able to find it and watch it. It's a very... I really liked it, even though it was a hard movie to watch. I really enjoyed it. I have no idea how you're going to find it, you guys. Maybe this will encourage, like, the CBC to go through their files and be like, you should put on DVD A Paid Vacation from 1979.
Yeah.
It's a quality piece of work. But yeah, the plot, yeah.
The plot, yeah. No, this is 3 years after Deadly Harvest.
It's weird because I feel like he looks so different. But like in Deadly Harvest, also he's like going for like teenage farm boy, I guess. And he's supposed to be 22, 23.
Well, it says he's in prison for 3 years, so he gets out when he's 23. So he's supposed to be 20. Like 20 when he goes in. Yeah.
Yeah. And so... in addition to letting us borrow a copy of the movie, Michelle also had an interview that was done between Ger and an unknown local television news anchor. And I showed this to my parents because I was like, you guys were in your 20s in Canada in 1979. Like, do you recognize this guy? Because the interview starts after that, like the TV show. Like, you don't see the name of the TV show. You don't see the name of the interviewer. It's just... And our next guest is Geraint Wyn Davies.
Yeah.
So we got to see a little half of a clip of the interview that they did with Ger when he's promoting the TV show. And I thought that was really interesting. It really added a lot for me because it turns out that this TV movie is based on a real story from a guy. So the short version is that Ger's character is wrongfully convicted. And then a ragtag group of journalists and lawyers basically get together to try to save him, and they're able to get him out of custody at the end. We'll go into the movie more, but like that's the short version. This really happened in the early 70s in Waterloo, Ontario. Ger doesn't give a whole lot of details, just that it's like this movie is like roughly, vaguely based on the same situation. But I thought it was really interesting because they talked to Ger and he's like, oh yeah, I had to go to this the West End Detention Center, and so I got to have like a feel for what it would be like to actually be in detention. And he said, like, the second you walk into the room, like, you already feel guilty. You haven't done anything, but you walk into the building and you're like, well, I must have done something.
He's like, even if you went to church that Sunday, you still feel guilty. Yeah.
Yeah. And as a person who's had to deal with juvenile and a couple of adult detention centers, I'm like, correct. That is the vibe that they're going for. You got it in one, man. That's exactly what they want you to feel. And I like now, if we get the chance to not pass out when we meet him, fingers crossed, I really would like to know more about his own real life experience with the police, because he mentions briefly in this interview that he himself was stopped once by 2 cop cars. It sounds like they basically like pulled over while he was walking down the street and like pointed their guns at him because he looked like a guy who had robbed a gas station and shot a guy. And I'm like, what? Like,
yeah.
That's all he said. He's like, oh yeah, I myself have been stopped by the police with guns once. It was fine. I'm like, could you elaborate? Could you like, this sounds like an amazing, insane, horrifying story. Like, could you tell me more about your personal experience? But the interviewer, it's 1979. And he's like, next. And on a lighter note, I just would love to say that, so the interviewer, you caught this too. I know you did. Like the interviewer, when he's about to introduce Ger, he's like, to his Welsh friends, he's Geraint. To his theater friends, Geraint. And and in this movie, he's Gary. And then Ger comes out and the guy's like, how do you want me to call, like, what do you want me to call you? And he's like, Geraint, because that's my name. And then the tag at the bottom says Gary. And I was like, you bastard. Really? Like, it's not... You specifically asked him, and then like whoever had to do the on-screen call was like, "Fuck it, no,
I don't know what that means. It's fine, no. Gary.
Can't spell that. You're Gary tonight, sir." Like, God damn it! But what's weird is he says like the guy goes, "In this movie, you're Gary." You and I watched it. The intro credits and the end credits both have him as Geraint. So like, I don't know. They didn't give two shits because they're interviewing him in the 70s for a TV movie. I don't know.
Well, he's Gary in Deadly Harvest.
He is, and he's Gary in at least one of the other. There's I think there's a hockey movie coming up. There's a couple hockey movies we have to do, and in one of those he's Gary. But like that's not this specific movie that they're asking him about. Like in the credits, he's Geraint. Like come on, like okay,
it's better than Geraint with a J.
Geraint hurts my heart still. Geraint bums me out. Anyways, I really liked this movie, even though tell me what your thoughts. I felt really uncomfortable watching it. What?
It was uncomfortable, but it was uncomfortable in a combination of like, wow, this subject matter is difficult, and also, wow, this is really 70s. And it felt like someone had hit the fast forward button, and I was like, a lot is happening. So much is happening.
Yeah.
And I don't really...
which is better than some of the 70s movies where like nothing happens for hours.
Oh, and we threw the rape word, like we threw the R word around a lot. I was like, oh, okay, this is a lot. They talk about it in the interview too.
Yeah, I like that Ger was like, the reason I look so uncomfortable authentically, it's because I was actually deeply uncomfortable. It sucked a bunch. And I'm like, well, you played that well on screen. That came through.
Yeah, he was like, Michael Ironsides was so intense. I did not, like, it was really difficult. Like, he's a nice guy, but he was like challenging me while we were working, and so I didn't want to keep doing scenes with him because he was making me uncomfortable.
Well,
and I was like, oh, okay. I mean, yeah, you look like it.
Yeah, it comes through. Which I didn't know who Michael Ironsides was, so I had to you seem to know who. I had to Google him afterwards, and I know him now as Darkseid from the Harley Quinn TV show. But what is he actually famous for? Do you know?
I don't know what he's famous for, but he's in Highlander 2.
Is that why you know? Of course, that's why you know. Okay. Because you were like, oh my God, Michael Ironsides. And I was like, oh.
And he was he was famous before that, but he got cast in Highlander 2. And literally his quote is like, I knew I was going to be in this shit movie, so I decided to go as hard as I possibly could. And so he's this most over the top, like he has no business being in that. No, everyone else is phoning it in, and Michael Ironsides is giving 175%.
Oh, so he's doing the Ger in Dracula the series.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's exactly what he's doing. But as like the crazy bad guy.
Okay.
Who's either from another planet or from way far in the past, depending on which version you watch.
Okay. Is this why nobody likes this movie? Because it doesn't make any sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm starting to put it together now.
For a variety of reasons, but yeah, mostly that. Also the part where Sean Connery, who is supposed to be Egyptian, dies to the sound of bagpipes playing Amazing Grace.
I mean, doesn't that work with his total lack of attempt at doing any accent other than a Scottish one?
Yeah,
really?
No, yeah. They were like, you're an Egyptian guy who's been living in Spain. He's like, cool, so I sound Scottish? And they're like, yeah.
That's how those two things work together. Yeah.
Yeah, best part, they sent him to an accent coach.
I remember you telling me this, that they tried to put him to work, and he's like, nope.
He's like, pass. Fuck you.
You wanted a Sean Connery? You've now received one Sean Connery. Congratulations. Okay, so this movie is it's so hard to watch, but it's so good. So it starts off. So Ger's character, he plays a guy named Richard Jarrell, who is, like you said, 20, and he's got a wife and like a brand new little baby, because it's the 70s, and that was normal. So we have him in his apartment building. He's going into the elevator, and he he sees a woman being grabbed. It looks like she's trying to like make a run for the elevator, and she almost gets into the elevator, and a guy comes behind her and like grabs her and drags her down the fucking hallway, and the doors close, and it's just Ger going, I'm sorry, what? I nearly called him Ger because fucking Ger. Okay, so it's catching. So like the first like 3 seconds of this movie go so goddamn hard. I was like, what do we? This is already like deeply upset because like now today I feel like they would have played it. I don't know, not goofier, but like not as intense, like not as like super scary. And this movie starts off like bam, fucking horrifying.
Yeah,
so
she's screaming.
Yeah,
like that woman is earning her paycheck.
Oh yeah, like top of her lungs.
She is screaming so hard.
Yeah, and you see the guy who's taking her, like you see like his head and his hands kind of pop into the frame. And the problem with, I don't know what the color would have looked like if you watched this on television in 1979 is the problem. I have a copy of an old VHS tape that's itself been copied probably like 100 times. So like the color that I have makes everything look kind of washed out green yellow.
Yeah.
So
I think the 70s were just that color.
Yeah, I think
they were just sepia tone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like to me, the guy that pulls her away from the elevator looks like a brunette. But in the like at the end of the movie, it'll turn out that this guy was a blonde the whole time, and I'm just like, but he looks not like, you see him long enough to know what he looks like, and I don't think this man is a blonde, and your whole movie hinges on him being a blonde. But like, okay, so you see him do that. Ger, his elevator gets up like I think it's like one floor up. He gets to his apartment, and he like to his character's credit, he runs into the stairwell. He runs down the stairs, and he gets to the next floor down. Quickly enough to see this woman being dragged into her room by her feet, and she is still screaming at the top of her fucking lungs. So he's like, uh-oh. So he runs back. He goes back in the stairwell, back up to his apartment, runs inside, calls the police. So, like, you're thinking, okay, like, he's the hero of this piece. Like, the cops are going to come and they're going to save the woman, or they're going to find the bad guy, or, like, whatever. No, like unlike every other piece of like cop propaganda television that we ever get, like that is not how this plays out. No, and I really like that.
This is probably more accurate.
Well, yeah.
Especially in the 70s.
Oh, especially, yeah. Well, and like, I hate to admit this, but the very first time I watched this movie, I think because I've been so indoctrinated by like police procedurals on television, the very first time I saw this movie, even though it starts with Ger seeing another man hurt this woman, the first time I watched this movie, I was like, oh, is he guilty? Oh, is he like imagining someone else hurting her? Like he must be guilty because look at the police doing all their
We're gonna figure out how. Yeah, they're gonna uncover the truth.
Yes,
even though we saw the truth at the very beginning.
We saw the truth with our own eyes, and the first time I watched this, I did not believe that was the truth. And I thought, I don't know if that's just me being, like I said, like so influenced by propaganda TV show, and like the fact that I feel like most crime-solving mysteries on TV today, there's always like a fake out. Like that's just part of every episode. There's always a fake out. You think it's this person, but really, it's that person. Or it definitely could not have been him. It actually was because he can fly or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know if that would have been the same experience watching it in the 70s, but like I really liked that because I was like watching it and I was like, oh no, the cops are definitely like, they've definitely got it. Even though I knew that they definitely did not have it. Like I don't know. It like messed with my brain. So so he's the one that calls the police, and this is okay. You're going to have to help me with this part. Cause I feel like this is where I get a little thrown, because at the same time that he calls the police and is like, hi, I'm reporting a domestic at whatever building I'm in, apartment 12, whatever. At the same time, a woman calls the police, an elderly woman, we have a journalist who somehow has, I guess she has like a police scanner, and she overhears this elderly woman call the cops and say like, basically, I think it was Ger's character. I think Richard Jarrell hurt this lady. And then when the police are like asking her questions, it sounds like she's like, I'm a little old lady and I can't say anything more, and then hangs up. And it feels like that maybe is the impetus for why they think Richard Jarrell, the Ger character, like why he somehow is involved more than just being the witness. Is that kind of how you interpreted it? Like,
yeah, that whole part was pretty garbled because we're listening to like her listening to the police scanner, and we hear the 911 call all like overlapped.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
was able to get I found an online web service where you can upload video clips and they will through AI, and like I don't like AI normally, but like I'm also sort of deaf, so like I need AI in this case. They will put their best guess as to what the as to like it's guessing the captions basically. It's like its best guess as to what the captions should read.
Yeah.
And so it'll add captions to the bottom. So we did that in this case, and even with the captions, I feel like I was deeply confused. And it took me like 2 times of watching it to even realize that this lady who was listening is a journalist and not like a junior police officer. Cause like that even wasn't
Yeah.
super clear the first time I watched. Although admittedly, the first time I watched it was with the clip that Kristen sent us, which has only the Ger scenes. So like
Just the important parts.
I mean, it's a very different movie when no one else is on screen. I'm just gonna tell you, it's a very different movie. So we have this this elderly lady call the cops. We have Ger call the cops. The cops show up to the building and then immediately start turning on Ger. Like immediately.
Yeah.
They like any investigating that they do. Like if they end up like not finding his fingerprints in the dead lady's room, and they're like, well, clearly Ger wore gloves. And I'm like, how did you? Like you've done no investigating. We don't know the name of the dead lady. Even we don't know. Like we don't know if did she have a boyfriend? Did she have a husband? Did she have like a stalker? Like a brother? We don't know anything about her or her life or the man that kills her. Even though we have a couple of scenes of the man that actually rapes and kills her, we see him like trying to escape the building. He like pops up a couple times, and then we see him. I think we either see him leave or like we know he's gone. Like he's escaped.
Yeah.
And we never see him ever again throughout the entire rest of the movie. We don't know anything about him or the actual reason behind the murder or if he's ever caught or like we don't know anything at all. And I was like, this is deeply upsetting, but also like you said, it feels realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't like it's hard to watch, but like I really like this because like when do you get this on television? When do you get the cops are incompetent? They are zooming in on the exact wrong person.
Yeah.
We know who the killer is. Sort of. I mean, we know what he looks like. We don't know anything about him, but we know him. We know that he's not the guy that they've found, and this crime goes unsolved. We watched an hour-long movie, and the crime goes unsolved.
Right, because they're so focused on the one guy.
Yeah.
That they don't actually investigate the case.
Yeah. Horrifying. I mean, like so good to watch, like so shocking to watch, but like deeply upsetting because it feels obviously more real than Murdoch Mysteries. Oh, there's a puppet.
I mean, I listen to a lot of true crime, and so you run into a lot of these where like the police have a preconceived idea of what happened, and then it just never gets investigated, and the poor family has to fight so hard to get the case like even ruled as a homicide.
Yeah.
And so to see this depicted in television as like, oh, the cops are really dropping the ball was like, oh, well, we could do that in the 70s. I bet you couldn't do it now.
No, but that's what I mean is like, when have you seen something like this on TV? Because your point about true crime is interesting. I feel like we have lots of those where it's like, oh, this case was dropped a long time ago, but now we're investigating it, or like now the family like fought so hard, like it's from like the victim's point of view. Because it should be. I mean, that should be the main focus, right? The victim's point of view. But what like this is not like a totally made up scenario. Obviously, this is based on a real case that really happened in Waterloo in the 70s. So like, when do we ever get like other than maybe like the Adnan Syed, the Serial podcast, like other than that, like when do we get to focus on the wrongfully convicted person, like fighting for their innocence, fighting for their right to be free? I just thought it was real. I was like, oh, I really like this. I mean, like as much as
only in high profile cases, like the West Memphis 3.
Yeah.
Those you see all the time, but like the people like this guy that was like, a lot of times they don't make the news. And so then nobody's paying attention to these people that were put in prison clearly wrongfully.
Yeah. Well, that's what Ger says in his interview. He's like, everyone just stopped caring. Like it was a big deal, and then it wasn't a big deal. And everyone was fine with letting this guy rot because they didn't care whether he was innocent or guilty or what. It
wasn't news anymore. So whatever.
Yeah. So, okay. So we have the cops show up. they're like weirdly interested in like how the door buzzers work. They're like, oh, the door buzzer for the dead lady's apartment sometimes goes to yours, and Gary's like, yeah, there's like a short in the system, and sometimes it goes to mine. And they're like, aha, like a clue. And I'm like, a clue as to fucking what? Like this, like, do you know what I mean? Like there's nothing to suggest that like someone tried to buzz their way in, and then Gary let them in, and then he didn't kill a stranger who wanted to go and see the lady, but like got him instead. He killed the late, like their theory, right, is that he killed the lady. So I'm like, I don't even understand. I like that, like, they drag Ger downstairs to the apartment, and Ger is like, why? Like, I told you what I saw. Like, why do you need me to go there and like be there with the dead lady's body? And they're just like, we just want you to. We just like, they've already assumed that Ger's the killer, and Ger's like, is she okay? Is she dead? And the cop goes, I don't know. And like, my response to that would be the same as Ger's. Like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, how do you not? What do you mean you don't know? And he like laughs a little just like that because he's like nervous but also incredulous. And then later they flip it on him and they're like, oh, you were laughing because you knew that she was dead. And he's like, that's exactly the opposite of what happened. That's not like, I asked you and your cop gave a weirdo nonsense answer. And I was like, what the hell is wrong with you? And they turn it around into like, oh, you're like this evil villain, like laughing at the corpse of this woman. And I was like, what the fuck? I will say that I liked, the only moment of levity in this entire thing for me was when they go downstairs and they see the dead lady's body being wheeled out, and they don't have her in a body bag, but they do have her in like all the extra makeup that they were going to use for Forever Night because she is fucking gray. She is like gray and like purple and shit, and her arm is hanging off the gurney. And I was like, lady, you just did such a good job. Do you know what I mean? You got to scream.
She earned her day.
She earned her sandwich that day.
She did.
She screamed and like got like thrown down a hallway. Then she had to get dragged across like apartment building carpeting. So you know that you just got like ass burn. Right?
Yeah.
So you get dragged across the carpeting, and then you have to have them like spray paint your whole body with a fucking like mummy paint, like just gray corpse. Like the fakest shit I've ever seen. And I was like, you went so hardcore, and then your painter was just like, it's fine.
Well, yeah. They weren't working with real high resolution TVs. They were like,
no, that's true.
She needs to be super obviously dead. And they were like,
yeah,
okay,
everything else was yellow, so you have to be gray. And I like how like already they have like everyone in the hallway and the whole apartment building like playing like looky-loos and staring, and the journalist is already there, and she's like trying to like mouth questions and shit at Ger, and I was like, I can't lip read well enough to understand what the fuck you're doing, but like, okay. So they make Ger come downstairs after. Can we just I feel like this is like the most male thing I've ever seen, because after Ger calls the cops, he's like, can't listen to this anymore. I can still hear the screaming. My radio, my stereo on real loud. And he starts doing fucking push-ups. He's like, push-ups and music. It's going to fix everything. I was like, oh, okay. You are definitely, you're a bro. You're a 20-year-old bro in this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And that ends up becoming like his problem, because his character is truly a 20-year-old bro who's like, I'm innocent. I know I'm innocent. I'm Garrett Wynn Davies. I look like this. It's going to be fine. I'm a white guy, so nothing's going to happen to me. But like, for once in history, shit went wrong for the white guy. Oh my God. Okay. So, they bring him down to the apartment. He kind of sees the corpse from the hallway. They're like pointing at shit in the apartment and staring at him and then pointing at more shit. And then we find out that every apartment in this building has a little balcony. And it's one of those setups where like if you were on the balcony and you climbed over the edge and dropped, you could land into the balcony right below you. Like it's a close enough, they're near enough that like I guess you don't have to be super amazing gymnast to do it. So they're like, like maybe this is how, and like we know that that's not how. Oh, well, I guess we don't know how he got in. I guess he could have climbed up and down the apartments to get in, but we know how he leaves. It's not by jumping out the window. He gets down a stairwell and leaves. But like the cops are so like, I like that their first thought is climbing outside balconies like Spider-Man. Like they're so like off, like crazy. Like they might as well have been like, what if it's a vampire from Forever Night and he fucking flew? Like it just, you know when you're like, why is that where did you even get that from? How is it your first thought? So they start making him write down what he saw, and he's like, okay. And then they're like, do it again with more detail. Do it again. They make him write it like 3 or 4 or 5 times. And I just want to say that I like that this is clearly not the apartment of a 20-year-old man. Like, I like that clearly, like, and I know he's supposed to be a 20-year-old man with a wife and a little baby, but like when they pan around the apartment, you see, this is so 70s. I love it. It's also like early 80s because I remember this from my childhood, but they have tea towel art. Do you remember tea towel art?
Oh,
so
yes.
So they
I have a tea towel from the year I was born that has the calendar on it. My grandma would save them for us.
Oh, that is peak. That is peak. I love that so fucking much. I'm like a little jealous, actually. Like that's So when they pan around the apartment, there is a tea towel hanging on the wall because it was art in the 70s. We were very into textile art, I feel like. And it's on the tea towel is it's an Eastern European couple wearing like traditional dress. And I know this because my family is Polish, and like we definitely had either that fucking tea towel or we also had like we had the dolls wearing the clothing that's being worn in that tea towel. And I'm like, look, Garrett Wynn Davies can play anything. He's not Slavic, okay? his people are not my people.
Well, they had to have textile art in the 70s because they didn't have color. Everything was orange.
Everything was weirdly like yellow snot color. But I like that they pan around and I'm like, this is not like whoever was your like what do they call that? Like the person who hunts down like sets, not sets, but like apartments
the set
to use
dresser
as like
or whatever.
The set dress, yeah. So whoever was their set dresser was just like, I don't know, let's use Pavel's apartment. And like, this is not Pavel. Gert's character does not live here. But I like that that's like the one piece of art. Like you could have taken down the one tea towel and it would have just been generic apartment. But then they just had like their Slavic moment. And like, I appreciate that for the shout out for my peoples. But like, sir, you do not live here. So they have him writing down like here, like write down what happened. No, write down with more detail. Write it down over and over again. While the cop is like walking around the apartment, like looking into his shower and like poking through stuff. And I'm like, why are you even doing like, look, don't let cops into your house. Okay. Don't talk to them. Don't let them like dig around and shit. Like, just say no. You have to tell them your name. You have to give them your ID. And then stop, and then you're done. They don't need to know where you've been or why you were doing stuff. Like, just if I can give any generic, broad-reaching advice, it's do not let them into your fucking apartment. I mean, if they have a warrant, they have a warrant. But like,
later they have a warrant. They have a warrant.
Yeah, but at this point, the guy's just like walking around, and the guy like I love how insidious this is because I think at one point Ger is writing like version 3 of his story of what happened. And he looks up and sees the police officer walking into the bathroom and like using his pencil to like push aside the shower curtain. Like, what do you think is going to be in there? A pile of bloody clothes? Like, okay. So he's looking around and then like the cop sees Ger look at him and the cop's like, oh, can I? Is this cool? And Ger's like, I guess, sure. No, don't fucking consent. It's politeness. It's politeness and it's ingrained into us. And like, I have a problem with politeness in all situations. I need to be more rude and incorrigible and I'm working on it. But like, it's like that, like natural. It's like with vampires. You don't invite them in.
You don't invite them in. No.
Yeah. You think you should because it's politeness and then they bite you and you go to prison for 10 years. Okay. So that's how this works. So, okay. So they're like looking around and they're asking him about a lighter and he's like, oh, okay, like I smoke sometimes, but like my wife doesn't like me to, so like I only smoke when my wife isn't here. And he just starts telling this like rambling, insane story about like how he got a lighter from a guy who's his friend, but not really his friend. And the cop is just like crazy, like writing down on his notepad. And I'm just like, shut up. Shut the fuck up. Stop saying shit to him. Because like the lighter doesn't ever like come back. Like the woman isn't like burned or anything. Like, but just, I'm like, anything that you say to them, they're just using it in their head to be like, oh, he's rambling because he's a liar. He's rambling because he's trying to hide his guilt and shit. I'm just like, crap. So then they end up taking him to the police station. And Ger's like, I have a job. Like, I have to go to work. Which, can I just say, I feel so many ways about this, but I just like that in the 70s, you could be a guy with a wife that maybe she didn't work. I don't know, because it's the 70s, but let's maybe even if she did, you could be a guy in the 70s. You know what I'm going to say?
I know,
a guy in the 70s, and you could have a kid and an apartment, and you could be a stock boy and go to school at night, and you could afford all these things.
Yes. No, I thought the exact same thing. I was like, oh, look at that. He could just work a regular job and support his family. Huh.
What is that
Isn't
like?
that interesting?
Yeah.
Wow. Almost
Yeah.
like the minimum wage was supposed to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that we both went there.
Yeah.
I was
well,
like,
how do you not?
oh,
How do you not like see
Yeah.
that and just go, huh? Real
Yep.
glad I went to law school. It definitely worked out for me. But in the 70s, yeah, you could have a job and afford school and take care of a spouse and have an apartment. And like it's not like a palatial apartment, but it's an apartment and it's like a
Yeah.
nice enough apartment. And afford to have a spouse and a kid and a home and schooling, and you could do all that with a regular fucking job.
Yep.
Neat.
With a neat little smock on.
His outfit. I was like, oh,
smock.
his like, what would you call it?
A smock.
Not a onesie. No, his full body outfit. He's got like a jumpsuit. He's got like a full.
Is it a jumpsuit or is it just
Yes.
like a knee length coverall
no,
thing?
he's got a gray, because it's the 70s and the only colors we were allowed were yellow and gray. He has a full gray button up to the neck. It's the same kind of like workman's jumpsuit that I would expect if you were like working in like welding and you wanted to protect your clothing, or if you were like a butcher and you wanted to protect your clothes from like blood and stuff. Like,
Or a
but
mechanic.
he's a stock boy or a mechanic. Yeah, it's like a full coverage, and I was like, huh. It was a different time then. And also like, but I kind of like it because it's sort of like more professional, which kind of goes back to the whole, you did a job and you could afford to take care of your family. Like it kind of feels like this makes it like, I don't know, validates it in a way.
They could afford to get you a real uniform because you weren't going to be there 2 weeks and then dip because you were making $8 an hour and it wasn't worth your time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you're lucky if you get like a shirt that you have to wash on your own and wear
and buy for yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah. So I was like, oh, this is not the social commentary you guys meant, but it's neat to look back when society wasn't garbage. I mean, like a lot of things in the 70s were garbage, but it turns out that you could live, and that seems neat.
Yeah. When the minimum wage was actually as intended. Well, this is supposed to be in Canada, so the Canadian equivalent of the minimum wage.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying I was just going to like do that thing that I do where I confidently speak on things I know nothing about, where I'm like, we had minimum wage in the 70s. I have no fucking clue, but however much he made as a stock boy was enough to live on.
Yeah.
It turns out. Anyways, so Ger's like, I have a job and I have to, wow, that was a digression. I'm glad that we both had that together. So Ger's like, I have a job, like I have to go. And they're like, oh, we can call your work. Like, don't worry. It's only gonna be a couple minutes. And they keep him there for 4 hours. And anytime that he's like, I need to leave, I want to call my wife, like I want to get out of here, they just find all of these great ways to like turn it around. No, just please wait a couple more minutes. The inspector's going to come. Oh, we just need a little more information. We just need a little bit more. Like, and then we want to take your fingerprints just to rule you out. And we want to take some pictures of you just to rule you out. Like we're on your side. Here's the good cop. Here's the even nicer cop. I like that. It's so Canadian that when nice cop comes in, he's like, what do you want to drink? And Gary's like, double. And I was like, the drink of my people. For Americans who are like, what the fuck is a double? It's a coffee with 2 creams and 2 sugars. It's like, it's a lot. It's like, you're like half high on caffeine and half high on just the sugar buzz. So you're just like a hummingbird the rest of the day. It's great. It's my favorite. It's diabetes in a cup. I love it. But in this case, it's a sinister double because it's meant to keep him there. It's an evil double.
Betrayed by the double.
Betrayed by the double. Yeah, that's my prison tattoo. Betrayed by the double. just around my belly button, like top and bottom. I'm sorry, you were drinking when I did that. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So, the reason that I think this is the movie that makes Ger be a never-nude is the cops are like, hey, can you take off your shirt? And he does a patented Ger move, which is we don't just get to see him in any other movie. Any other actor would just go, okay, and pull off their shirt, and they'd be standing in front of you, like facing you, and they pull off their shirt. No, he is a man of modesty. So he turns around, faces the wall, and he pulls his shirt. He does that thing where like you keep the shirt on your arms, the sleeves stay on you, but the torso part you kind of flip up over your head.
Yeah.
So we get full Ger back. We can do a full map of every mole in his back because we know it now. So good for us. Thank you, baby Ger. So Mama like. So we get to see, if you look really closely, and again it's hard because it's a copy of a copy of a copy of a VHS tape, but if you look really, really closely, you can in fact see there's like lady sex scratches on his back. Which I like that the movie never explains. Do you know what I mean?
Where
like,
they came from?
Yeah. He's like, I think I did it when I was waiting for you, because he starts panicking because they're like, oh, scratches. Like, when's the last time you had sex with your wife? Did you have sex with anybody else? Maybe like, could they be from somebody else or like some other non-sex related cause? Like, what caused them? And he's like, I have like what scratches? And I'm like, oh, that's called being in your 30s, my dude. Where you take off your clothes and you're like, where did all these bruises and cuts and shit come from? What happened to me? I had the shit kicked out of me and I have no idea. I feel like that's what it's like to be in your 30s. Am I wrong? I'm not wrong.
No.
Yeah. But he's like, but these are very much like, they're like, I don't know how you get these scratches unless a lady clawed you, unless, I don't know, you fought a cat. Like, I don't know how else you get the scratches of this type. But Ger's like, I don't know. And we never know. He doesn't have a cat. His wife in the like 1.5 scenes she's in this movie, she doesn't seem like she's clawing the I mean, maybe they're supposed to have like a really crazy sex life.
I don't know.
I like to think that they did not like talk through this scene before they filmed it, and he pulls his shirt up and they're like, oh shit, there's sex scratches. Oh, where did those come from? He had to improvise.
He's like, my coworker.
Oh no, guys, no, these are mine. This is not Richard Jarrell's. These are Ger's. These are all Ger's.
I am so sorry. I told her not to scratch so hard, but you know it happens.
Like it's such a weird. That's the only real complaint that I have about this movie is there are so many scenes like this where there's like weird details thrown out, and because of the tropes of storytelling that I feel like we have now with most of our TV, if you throw out a thing, I want to know the reason for the thing. And instead, this is just like red herring.
Right. It feels significant. You're like, oh, we're going to find out what those are for. And yeah, we never do.
No, because he doesn't even know. He's like, well, maybe I did it. And then the police officer is like, can you show me like on your arm, like scratch your arm how you would have scratched to make your back? And he's got little nubby bite your fingers nails like I do, and so he's like trying to like scratch on his arm, and Michael Ironside, the police officer, is like so no then you can't, and Ger's like trying to scratch his arm and nothing's happening. It should, like, it's not meant to be funny, but like the way he's sitting there is, he looks like he's like going at it. He's like, no, I got this. Like, nothing is happening. But yeah, so they make him show his back, which we know Ger don't like. And then the cop is like, okay, pull your pants down. And Ger's like, what? And he's like, okay, so I can pull my shirt back and then pull my pants down. And they're like, no. Both of them at the same time, and I'm like, this is a different kind of movie than I thought I was watching. like I'm here for like the abusive police tactics. Like I'm here for it, but this feels a little bit sexual assaulty.
Yes, I think it's supposed to.
Yeah. And so when we saw that interview and Ger's like, yes, I felt deeply uncomfortable. I'm like, it's this, right? This is the thing.
Yeah, this is the thing you didn't like. Right.
Because like the way, and I will say that like this movie, it's cut, it's like it's framed, the scene is framed in a very appropriate way. It's framed appropriately, where you see like just a little bit of like the butt divot, like just a little tiny bit. But like watching it, I was like, so close. Like, come on. Fucking come on, man. Okay. So I don't know, just based on like the level of trauma on his face when he turns around, I'm like, bing. I mean, I think we found it. I think this is the thing that made him just be like, never again. Never fucking again. It's like, I don't think, I just like the budget for like a 1970s TV movie, I don't think he did not actually pull his pants down. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think pants were pulled down. I think he had to stand there facing Michael Ironside with his 20-year-old little butt cheeks and his naked back. He was like, this is it. It's not happening ever again. I'm done with this shit. And it became a theme throughout his whole career. I like that we found the origin of the characteristic, because like I think this has to be it.
Yeah. Until Ikwe. And then he was like, only if you make it look like I have chest hair.
Well, and also like in Ikwe, he's shirtless from 9 miles away.
No, like on the VHS cover.
Oh no, on the VHS cover. Yeah, but he doesn't. But on the VHS cover, which he does not allow to be used in the movie, right?
Which has the glued on.
Like the fur rug. Yeah.
This is no way the same color as his head hair.
The beaver pelt that they hot glued to his to his clavicle. Yeah. But like in the actual movie. In the actual movie, the only time he is shirtless is he is on a beach and the cameraman is fully like 9 miles back. He's a little pink blob.
I mean, for sure, this is I'm not saying that a paid vacation's not the origin of this. I'm just saying there's one more instance where I have seen his chest, but I think he only did it as long as he looked like he had chest hair. And they were like, okay, and they just cut a wig up and like
what it looked like in Ikwe. I can't stop ever thinking about Ikwe. It looked like they took 2 merkins and went bump bump. And like, there you go, man. Here, you got full patch of chest hair. There you go. Just hot glue that shit right down. Oh,
it's probably like Matt's chest hair, where he has a lot, but it's red, like it's blondish reddish, so you can't see it. It's like intoned, and so he doesn't look like he has any. So he's probably like, I don't know, maybe he's self-conscious. In the 70s, like swarthy dudes were the thing. So maybe he was like...
Yeah, but he's like he's supposed to be like a 20-year-old young guy. It would be weird if you turned around and it was full on like bare chest. Do you know what I mean? Like curly, like thick, solid hair.
Wait, what if he turned around and it was the same chest hair?
The fucking chest soul patch. Oh my god! And
it wasn't fake ever. That's actually what it looks like.
I don't wanna get you too sexually riled up right now. So if we need to take a break for you to cool down, I don't know. It'll be okay. If you need to take a break to cool down, it'll be okay. But I just want to tell you that when we get to Merry Wives of Windsor, not only is he wearing it's like not even like a solid fat suit. It's like several like fat padding pieces all over his body and neck. But also, Rachel, they gave him thick, gray, fake chest hair that is so huge it pops out of his Henley shirt. It's like there's like one scene, like there's one scene where he's wearing any kind of clothing that you might see chest hair, and they felt the need to give him full on bursting up to his neck chest hair. So just
no. See, the thing from the cover of Ikwe, maybe that's his actual chest hair. I almost made it.
He heard about a landing strip and he just misunderstood completely, or what?
And so the thing in Merry Wives of Windsor is just that gone gray.
Yeah, but it's like not tall and skinny. It is like short and wide. It is the chode of chest hair. It is like it's every fucking where. They made his character like, I don't want to say disgusting because it's not disgusting. But they made his character like very like the physical aspects. Yeah. Just physically like sort of too much. And they went that way with the chest hair.
Yeah. In this scene of A Paid Vacation, we also get to see him like unzip his pants.
We do.
Because they're like, we're gonna need a pubic hair, and he's like, ugh, and so he like unzips, and then we cut away.
Okay, so they're like, so they make him brush out his hair on like a piece of paper to look at his hair, and then they're like, yeah, we need to also look at your pubes, and he's like, fucking fine, like if it'll get me out of here, like fine, whatever you want. He's got a belt, so we get to see the belt like that, like. We get to see like that pull back, like pop open the belt buckle, pull the belt buckle back, zip, and I was like, what? And then they cut away, and I was like, fuck! God damn it.
It's the 70s. I want my random nudity. Bring it back.
Like, I just...
maybe that's in the German version.
The Euro minutes, the Euro minutes has him just flopping his dick on the table. Oh my god. I'm not crying, you're crying.
I am crying a little bit, yeah.
This is not a funny movie, but we are both pissing our pants laughing. It's just okay.
It's because he's so uncomfortable this whole scene. When he's supposed to, I mean, he's supposed to be uncomfortable because he's being grilled for a thing. Like all he was trying to do was be a good person, and he is being punished for being a good person right now.
Yes.
And so for understandable reasons, he's really frustrated. But then having gone through so much of his career, and this is the most skin pretty much that we will ever see close up.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Wow, he is deeply uncomfortable showing his back right now.
Yeah, even just his back. Even literally just his back, and while he's wearing his jeans.
Which
not even his arms.
I feel like I would be that way. I'd be like, can we not? Like, what do we need it for?
I feel like you should be like, hi, I'm not agreeing to any of this. Like, am I arrested? Am I in custody? Like, what's going on? But I feel like,
with the police, but also like if I was an actor, I don't think I would want to.
I hate that. Like,
I'd be with Ger.
I'm not. I feel like the acting would make me uncomfortable because I don't like any. Even though I have a podcast, any attention on me as a human being makes me shrink into the wall and die. But I feel like the actual like, oh, do you need me to be naked? I'd be like, all right. Like I'm like weirdly like ashamed of myself clothed, but not nude. Like I don't know what that says about me. I'd be like, all right, there's my ass. There you go. Enjoy it. I can't answer any questions you have about it, but there it
is. I've never seen it. I don't know anything about it.
We'll both learn and discover today. So Rachel and I both get blue balls at this point. They're still like investigating him. Then they want to go into his apartment, and somehow at this point they have a warrant. And I'm like, what probable cause did you have to get you had nothing?
He doesn't look at it. They just pull a piece of paper out, and they're like, "This is a warrant."
Do we even see the paper? Because I know that he's like, I know you have a warrant, so like I can't say anything.
He pulls the paper out, and it's just a folded piece of paper. We don't see what's on it, and he's like, "I got a warrant," and he's like, "Okay, fine. Like, look, I don't care. Like, do what you need to do then."
Well, maybe, okay.
And then maybe leave. But he doesn't look and see if it's an actual warrant or if it's just a folded piece of paper.
Yeah, any version of this feels like a real failing of the legal system. Whether it's like a real warrant or whether it's them being like, don't look at this, it's definitely a warrant. And Garrett's like, okay, fine. So they're like running through his apartment and looking at stuff. Again, nothing they find in his apartment like ever matters. It never comes up. They're never like, oh, we see a thing and that's how we're going to use it to charge you with this woman's rape and murder. Like just nothing. But they dig through all of his shit. That's when we find out that the buzzer sometimes buzzes apartment 1107, which is the victim's apartment. Or sorry, if you hit the buzzer for 1107, it sometimes buzzes 1207, which is Ger's apartment. And I'm like, how does any of this, like, it's the one frustrating thing with this is it's just like all these red herrings that seem to mean enough to the police officers that they're like, yes, definitely, like, we're on the right track. We have the right guy. But for me as the audience member, I'm going, I know you don't have the right guy. But separately from that, I don't know how these disparate, weird little facts that you're finding, how any of these lead to Ger being the killer. Like how any of these tie Ger to anything. You're just like walking around like poking at shit going like, this is important. And I'm like, what are you even looking at? What do you like, what, but they're all just so single-minded. So, then we end up so finally the cops end up leaving. We get to see wife and baby real quick. And the only reason this matters is we get to see at the beginning of this movie that Ger's child is an infant, like an in your arms, like baby. So we end up having Ger finally going to work as a stock boy. We get to see him in his full zip up jumpsuit. I don't know why I keep wanting to call it like coverall. That's this is terrible. Like I keep thinking, did you ever watch the Venture Brothers, that cartoon?
No.
At some point I got to get you to, it's so good. But one of the characters wears essentially that, and he calls it a speed suit. And so in my head, it's always just a speed. Like it's not like that's a made up stupid name. But every time I see that, I'm like, oh, speed suit. And so when jumpsuits became fashionable, I was like, is the speed suit having a moment? And I was so excited. But like it's like a mechanic's jumpsuit.
Yeah,
his coverall. So he gets to work, and this is where we meet his coworker Corky, who is the worst fucking character in this whole movie. Like I would have
His name is Corky?
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't hear his name. And we don't say it often enough. And I was like, I don't care.
It was in the subtitle. Did you watch the one with the subtitles?
No.
Oh. How did you hear a goddamn thing without the subtitles? I'm really impressed. I had a hard time.
I don't know. I did.
I'm Rachel and I can hear whatever, man. Okay. So
I spend a lot of time listening to audio, okay?
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah.
So we meet Corky, who is the worst fucking character in this whole movie. And like, I would have been happy if Corky died or got hit by a bus or turned out to be the real killer. Like all those things would have
I was
pleased
hoping.
me.
I was hoping he'd be the killer all along.
Yeah, or like in cahoots with the killer, or like, but no, he's just a fucking asshole. Okay, so we have Corky, and like the second he sees Ger, somehow he already knows that like there was a dead woman in the building. Maybe it was just in the news or something. I mean,
it's in the news.
Yeah, because we see the journalist go to the crime scene. Tash, Politnikov, I think is her name. So maybe that's how he knows. But he's like, "Hey Ger, hey killer, rah! Like, tell me how you killed her. Tell me how you raped her and killed her." And I'm like, oh, the 70s when you thought this was a funny thing to joke about. Like, hey, tell me how you fucked a woman to death.
Yeah.
Like while you're like putting cans of corn on the shelf, like fucking dark. Corky, I hate you already. And so this is like when we get peak white boy bro, because Ger, instead of just being like, shut up, Corky, Ger is like the guy's making up a story, and Ger's like, yeah, that's how it happened. That's absolutely how it happened. Yep. And I'm like, don't feed into Corky. Don't trust Corky. If you have a Corky in your life, don't. You don't need a Corky in your life. You don't need them.
Corky will betray you.
Corky will betray you. That should be our next t-shirt for the podcast. Corky will betray you. Okay. So, Ger ends up calling Corky, and Corky is like, I love how it's the 70s. So Corky isn't just, like smoking pot, but he has like a whole like fucking like love in where they're all smoking pot in Corky's apartment together, and they're all like flopped all over the furniture like it's an opium den.
Yes.
It gives the cops a way to like control Corky, but like I didn't like him before, and then when I found him with like 7 people passed out in his apartment smoking, so that there was like a thick fog all around him, I was like, I like you even less. Like, you suck.
Corky just sucks. This is about Corky. This isn't about Corky's behavior or drug use. This is about Corky as a person.
Well, he's like gross when we first meet him, and then we see and then we have like the drug scene, and then that's how the cops use him, and then he is like super into being used by the cops, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what the punishment for like having an ounce of marijuana would have been in Ontario in the 70s. Maybe it was really draconian. I don't know. But like Corky is like more than happy to immediately flip on Ger. Okay, so anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. So Ger calls Corky. Corky's stoned out of his head. The cops are somehow already have a wiretap. And I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck is this? So they're already listening in. Corky's like, hey, do you want weed? And Ger, I love how Ger's character, because he's the bro, is like, maybe not right now while the cops are right up my ass. Like later, abso-fucking-lutely, drugs are great, but not right now, Cork. Maybe not right now at this moment. The cops are like, So then Corky is like still like weirdly like he's got a weird heart on for like imagining how Ger fucked this woman to death, and I'm like,
he says, was she a good lay?
Sorry, Kelly. I'm sorry. I should have warned you, but that was visceral.
It was. I mean, because that's not what happened. It's
like either like obviously he doesn't really think that Ger is I don't know. I have to imagine he doesn't really think Ger's the killer, because that's a weird thing to joke about with an actual killer. Tell me how you fucked her and killed her. But like it's a weird thing to joke about with your friend who lives in the same building as this woman was killed. Like it's just
it's just inappropriate on many, many levels.
It's just distasteful. And like I realize that like what we think of as distasteful changes throughout time. But like also this feels like peak bro humor. And I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah, this feels like a slam dunk. This was probably always distasteful.
Although like based on the humor of some of the stuff we've watched from the 90s, like I don't know. Like some of the stuff when we go back, I'm like, oh.
The puppets.
And it was just,
what's the one with the puppets?
Puppets Who Kill.
Yeah, Puppets Who Kill. This feels like Puppets Who Kill humor.
Yeah.
Like the teddy bear would have absolutely made this joke. Like he would have been Corky.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that is my new fan theory, is that when Corky dies, he is reincarnated as that weird fucking teddy bear.
I think that fits.
As buttons.
Yeah.
God, I put that movie so far out, that TV show so far out of my brain. I just, I don't think about buttons and his little flap. Ugh. Anyways, okay. So Corky is like still got like a giant heart on for like, tell me how you did it. Tell me how you did it. Tell me how you did it. And then he like makes up his own story. I bet this is how you did it. And Ger's like, yeah, sure. That's what happened. But again, anytime that the Ger character is like talking to Corky or talking to the cops or talking to anybody, anything he says immediately gets flipped around like backwards and sideways, like ninja moves. And so it turns from Ger being like, yeah, sure, okay, that's what happened, to yes, that is what happened, which is how it would read in a transcript, right? Like it's just
right.
So we end up having, so the cops have listened in on this. So they heard basically Corky like lighting his bong on the phone. The cops are like, yes. So they run into Corky's apartment. They see everyone spread out like it's a fucking opium den. And they grab Corky. They get him to flip on Ger. They put a wire on him. And so Corky I like that Corky keeps doing the same behavior that he was doing for free, but now for the cops. Like he was already being like, hey friend, speak into my lapel and tell me exactly how you murdered this woman. Like he was doing that shit when no one was listening in. So they have Corky, they send Corky after Ger for 1 month. 1 solid month of every time Ger goes to work, Corky being like, hey, tell me how you killed this girl. Hey, how'd you rape her? Was she good? Was it hot? Was it sexy? Like, how'd you bash her brains in? For a fucking solid month. Which means that they weren't, like, we don't see any evidence of them investigating any other possible suspect.
Right.
Or investigating any of the evidence found on the body or in the apartment or in the stairwell. Fucking nothing. Just 1 month of Corky being like, tell me how you did it. Tell me how you did it. And so finally we have Ger. So finally Ger's like, just to shut him up, because that's what you would do if someone is doing this to you for a month solid. You would just say anything to shut them the fuck up, because you just reach a breaking point. Ger goes, I flew. And I was like, forever night. It's like, yes, it's a premonition.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched Forever Night, the vampires fly in Forever Night, and it varies by level of cheesiness, but they can in fact float above the ground because they're magic and shit.
Yeah.
So Corky, 1 month later, Corky is still on Ger and like, how did you do it? How did you do it? And finally, Ger is just like, to shut you the fuck up. I flew. Okay, that's what I did. Is I flew. And Corky's like, oh, like at Jerry's that one night. And so we end up finding out that one night Ger has a party at his apartment, and he thought it would be super funny because, again, his character is a white guy bro, to go out to his balcony, climb up all the other balconies, somehow get onto the roof of the building, go across the roof of the building, down the balconies on the other side, hang out at like another party for like some other friends he knew was happening on like the back side of the building. And when he was done there, did he leave through their front door? Fuck no. He went back out to their balcony and Spider-Man crawled his way up to the fucking roof. And everyone thought it was hilarious because it's the 70s and that doesn't sound at all dangerous or
no,
like something that could break both your legs and your neck. It's fine. We didn't care about killing ourselves because it was the 70s. So anyways, so the cops are like, oh, we're in. And I'm like, I'm sorry. So Ger saying I flew was enough for you to fucking arrest him? Because that's all he says. Like we find out later about the whole climbing up the balcony story. And then we find out even more later that I guess like anybody could climb up. The balconies are so close together that even the lady journalist who will end up becoming the one person in Ger's corner, she could hop up the different balconies because she does it with ease, like later in the movie, and it's totally doable. But like, all he says is "I flew," and they're like, "Yes, that's a confession." And I'm like, "How the fuck is that a confession? Like, what? Based on what? Like, you have no. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no evidence related to the balconies.
Yeah.
Nobody saw someone climbing a balcony. There's not like footprints on the balcony. There's no one saw him. Fucking Forever Night vampire flying up to the roof.
It's not about that. The 1970s, you're not that far from, you don't catch the bad guy unless you literally see him standing over the body, holding the murder weapon with a signed confession in the other hand.
Yeah, but this is like the exact opposite. This is, we needed no evidence and no evidence was sufficient.
Right, because if they didn't have any evidence, they weren't going to catch anybody. So to catch somebody, they had to find someone and like railroad them. This is the same time that Jeffrey Dahmer is active. Yeah. And Jeffrey Dahmer literally had a victim that he had just assaulted, who had blood dripping down his legs, was naked, had a hole drilled in his skull, went up to the police, and they were like, oh, this sounds like a gay thing. Why don't you go back to your boyfriend? So this is the same. This is that era of like.
Yeah. When we want to see something, we do. When we don't want to see something,
we don't. Yeah. Because who's going to find out? No one's going to know. It's going to be fine. We'll just catch this guy. We'll get an arrest on our records. Who cares if he's actually the guy who did it or not?
Yeah, we have to arrest someone, and today you're someone.
Yeah, and today you are the someone.
Yeah. So they arrest Ger based on the "I flew" comment. Then we jump to the trial. So we get to the trial, and there's this creepy, vaguely German forensic analyst on the stand, and he's like, his whole testimony, because we only get his testimony, and then we get Corky's testimony. His testimony is basically, I found some blonde hairs in this woman's pubes, and on her shoulder and in her hand, and Ger is blonde.
Yeah.
That's the test. Because like literally, like we end up finding out later that the level of analysis that this guy did, if you had, I guess, brown hair or black hair or maybe even red hair, he could have been able to tell the difference between like your hair and my hair with some degree of certainty. But the way that it works on this, the way that this particular forensic technique works on blonde hair looks like all blonde hair came from one guy is kind of how I understand when they like the testimony. So he's like, oh, it was a blonde and that guy's a blonde. Hang him. That's his testimony. And then we have Corky. And this is where we find out the backstory about the "I flew" comment. And so then the jury's like, well, he says he flew and he's blonde. To prison with you, sir. And I was just like, oh, no. So Ger's convicted. And his sentence is that he has a life sentence and he has to serve 10 years before he can even get on parole. And I was like, okay, this is already a very different TV movie than what we get today. Cause oh my God. Like, you get fucking nothing and then immediately the trial and immediately guilty. And so then the second half of the movie is the journalist lady that we've seen kind of pop up like here and there throughout the movie up to this point. Her name is Tash Politnikov. She's like, I don't believe it was him. I know it wasn't him. I'm going to fight for him. And it's only because of her that Ger's character eventually ends up being exonerated. It's one person fighting and fighting and fighting for, spoiler alert, 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years of fighting, which again feels kind of like the time frame that we do things in the legal system, frankly. So only this one person caring and going out of her way to like bring in other people and make a team, only this one person caring is what gets him out of prison eventually. So she, it turns out, used to be a lawyer, but her job, like, because it's the 70s, like there's not a lot of law firms that are hiring lady lawyers. And so she ends up working in like doing title searches and small claim stuff. And she's like, I was bored by that. I didn't enjoy it. So I quit. I became a journalist. But she, she's still like, if not a licensed lawyer still, she like still knows how to, do research and how to write stuff. And so she's like, she's got the skills. So she ends up going to this lawyer that had helped her own mother like come into the, it sounds like he helped with the immigration of her mother from Russia. And I'm like, so this guy like does criminal appellate law and immigration? Like, sure. Fucking why not?
Yeah, why not? Maybe he did one and now he does the other.
Sure. And I like how she's like, you know what? You did a really good job at immigration. How would you feel about a criminal appeal? And I'm like, okay, sure. Yeah, those two circles overlap. So he's like, okay, I'll do this, but only if you do all of my work for me.
Yeah.
And essentially, like, they will end up working together. They realize that the whole case basically turned on this one expert, this one, like the hair expert, basically. And so they end up trying to find their own hair expert. They end up searching like the States. They end up searching Canada. They finally find one guy at University of Toronto who has created this newer method called neutron activation analysis, which a quick Google search tells me is in fact a thing. And that is all I know about it, but it is a science thing. Those are science words that do science together. And with that level of analysis, which it sounded like it, you can see like different levels of like metal in the hair or maybe deposited on the hair.
Yeah. Something
like that. He could, with that level of analysis, he was able to look at the hair on the body, look at the Ger hair and go, oh, these are not from the same guy. So that's essentially like the science that will save Ger. So while this is happening, because this movie keeps going hardcore and doesn't want to like let us off the hook at all, we see Ger in prison a couple of times. And the first time we see him, he has had this shit kicked out of him. He's covered in like bruise makeup and he's bloody, and it turns out that he has been raped. And I'm like, okay.
All right, yeah.
And like, I wish they had gone into that a little more. Like, I'm not saying I want to see the Ger rape scene, because that's not what this podcast is. But,
no.
But like, I wish they had spent more time with him. Like, he's the main character of this, but there are stretches of the movie where he disappears.
Yeah. Once he's in prison, we don't see him again.
Yeah. Well, we see it, like, I mean, like the 2 times in like the visiting room, and then when we get to the trial again, and he's just like sitting there like on trial. But I would have liked more, I don't like more introspection with him, like more like caring about him as a character instead of just like, I'm a cocky white guy. Today that didn't work out for me. Just like more. But anyway, so we end up having the journalist / lawyer doing all the lawyer work
for $3 a day.
Because maybe in the 70s that wasn't an insult. I don't know. It still feels like it probably was an insult, frankly. But
it was.
Yeah. So we have them like struggling to get transcripts, and I was like, oh, okay. Accurate. For 5 minutes, somebody went to court. Like, I like what you did there, guys. So anyways, we find the new scientist with the newer method. We end up having a new trial. The best that I can figure out, because they call it an appeal sometimes, but like, I don't think this should be an appeal. I think it's like probably like a habeas motion, because essentially I think the argument has to be that your first lawyer was ineffective for not presenting any experts or anything to counteract the state's expert. I'm not like, I feel like the movie yada yada's that a little bit. I mean, a lot. Yada yada's that a lot. But like, I feel like that has to be the way that you get to the new trial. Like, I can't see how you get there otherwise. Like, I think that's got to be the argument, because like, the first guy, when he's comparing hairs, it's like, oh, they're similar on like 9 points. And the second guy's like, they need to, like, I'm analyzing them on like 45 different points. So like, it's a better, but it's weird the way that the movie plays it. It plays it both like this other form of analysis is known and is better and is the right one to use. But it also sort of plays it like a lot of people wouldn't have known about this new form of analysis, and they all would have been using the old form of analysis. So like, maybe your lawyer would not have been ineffective for not, I mean, I think he's ineffective for not presenting any evidence, like at all, anything to try to counteract, because we don't see what Ger's lawyer presents at all. That part of the trial is gone. You literally only have Corky getting up there and being like, Ger flew, and you have German von rapey scientist go, blonde hairs, so you should hang him now. And that's the entire part of the trial that you see.
Yeah.
So it seems like we don't know what Ger's lawyer presents, but like, it feels like Ger's lawyer doesn't present anything science-wise to counteract the science we do get. So like, that's my guess, is that we're going ineffective assistance of counsel because you fell below like the standard that you should have been at, and like, there's a reasonable probability that if you had presented literally any other science thing to counteract the blonde hair equals blonde hair science thing, that you would have been able to get him off. And we know this because when they do present a competent scientist later in the movie for the new trial, he does get off. So anyways, that was Lawyer Minute with Meg. It pissed me off. So so we end up having this really interesting, before we get to the new trial, we had this really interesting moment where journalist lawyer goes and talks to Ger and goes, hey, the law changed. I don't know how the law has changed. She doesn't go into it, but she says, like, essentially, if we try this again, there is the chance that the charges would go up to first-degree murder, and it would be another automatic 25 years before you could get parole instead of 10. And I was like, okay, so it's got to be some kind of like procedural rule, because I feel like that's the only time when you use the new rule, not the rule that was in place at the time that the crime was committed. So like, there's some, but anyway, so like, there's got to be some like new procedural thing that now makes it extra dangerous for Ger, an innocent character, to pursue getting a new trial. And I thought that was really interesting that they threw, I mean, like, they kind of throw it out half-assedly because, again, it's the 70s, but I was like, oh, that's really interesting that you added this like extra level of like, they're not saying like, this is why people confess to things that they didn't do, but they're like bringing that question in, which I liked. I thought that was interesting, because like, I feel like that's a thing that like we're aware of, right? That like sometimes people confess to things that they did not do because you like because they have like some ulterior motive for doing that, or more likely because they've been like, just like with the Corky situation, like they've been browbeaten by the cops or whoever, and they just give up. They're like, if it will stop this punishment, if it will stop this psychological torture, I'll say that I kidnapped the Lindbergh baby. Like, whatever you want, man, whatever stops this. So I feel like that's also a characteristic. I feel like, for like going back to Dracula, is like, here's an interesting idea. We're not going to pursue it. But like, wouldn't it be neat if we did? We're not gonna. But wouldn't it be cool if we did?
Like, but if we did, it'd be cool. But we're not gonna, so don't get your hopes up.
But isn't that neat? Just gonna just lob it at you. So we have the new trial with the scientist who actually sciences correctly. And then we end up having Ger found not guilty. And then, because it's TV, instead of like you going back to the prison to be processed and then like 6 hours later getting your stuff and leaving, they're like, "Nah, you got your. We'll mail it to you. We'll mail it to you. Go home." So Ger just gets to leave from the courtroom, and we see his wife and his kid, who, let me just say, is clearly played by like an 8-year-old girl. Like, I know I'm not good at kid ages, but like this kid is like 7 or 8, but she's supposed to be 3.5. And I'm like, are you on growth hormone? Like, what is happening here? But we get to see Ger. Because originally I was like, oh my God, he's been in prison for 8 years. But then they say 3.5. And I'm like, okay. So we get to see Ger reunited with his wife and his very large 3.5-year-old child. And they get to go, I guess this courthouse has an escalator. Because, okay, sure. It's clearly, you filmed it in a mall. That's fine. It's the 70s. It's fine. Yeah. There's the Gap, and next to it is the courthouse. Sure. So he's going down the escalator like with his kid and his wife. And then we've got lawyer and journalist. And they're like, oh, he got a paid vacation courtesy of Her Majesty the Queen. 3.5 years, and they won't even give him train fare to get home. The end. And I was like, oh wow, this movie. Like, I just, and I like that, like, in the interview, Ger was like, sweet baby Ger. He's like, yeah, it was terrible, but like, it turned, like, if you just keep fighting and you're innocent, like, eventually you'll get free. And I was like, is that the point of this movie that you were in?
Yeah, like, I don't think that was it.
I mean, you're 20.
Yeah. Then he also talks about when the police pulled him over, and he was like, in that moment, it was really weird because my mind went blank because I realized I actually don't have as many rights as I thought I did.
I thought that was really, I like that comment he made. I was like,
yeah.
Yeah. And I know just enough about the law in Canada compared to the States that, like, I know that there are some restrictions and like not, I don't want to say fewer rights because that doesn't sound right, but like I know that there are like situations where you might think that you're protected as an American that maybe you wouldn't be as a Canadian. Like, I know that there's like some things are different. So like I don't know how this plays out. Like in real life, the real life version of this. Like,
yeah,
if they hadn't immediately been like, oh my God, you're Garrett Wynne Davies, like the horny star of stage and screen, you clearly did not shoot a guy at a gas station.
Right.
Like, I don't know how that plays out for him. But yeah, I appreciated that he had the forethought of mind to be like, oh, maybe I don't have all the rights that I think maybe I'm not as safe as I think I am in every moment. Just like because the character in the movie that he plays, right, is like, it'll be fine if I just spill my guts to the cops. They want to look at my butt. Here's my butt. They want me to shake up my pubes. There they are.
Yeah. How can this possibly go wrong? I didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. How is honesty is the best policy. So just come and look at my apartment. Come and comb through my hair. Come and like have me. Sure. You want me to write out this thing 7 times? Oh, okay. You want me to sit here for 4 hours? Absolutely. Like, and here's how it bites you in the ass. And the killer never gets caught. And only by the sake of this one journalist/lawyer lady fighting for 3.5 years solid, like for free, basically, in the back room of this lawyer's office who doesn't really give a shit. Only for her fighting does his character get free. Like, that could have turned out differently. That was almost going to turn out differently. Like, yeah. I like a happy ending to a story. So like, I'm glad that like the real life man got freedom in the end. I wish I knew more about it. Like, I wonder if there's a way to like find out more about the original story, but like, I'm glad there's like a happy ending in real life. I'm glad the Ger character gets a happy ending, but like, I like that it's bittersweet and messed up and unresolved and dark. Yeah. I really like this movie. I mean, it's so hard to watch. I've seen it like 2 or 3 times now to take notes and things for it. I wouldn't be like, hey, let's watch this for popcorn night. But I feel like this is what I want Ikwe to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want it to be a hard watch that has some value and makes me think about things.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. This is, you wanted Ikwe to feel, like you wanted Ikwe to make you feel something besides just disgust at like how badly it was put together.
Yes. Like, I am fine with watching something where I don't really like any of the characters. Because, like, the Ger character in this, you feel for his situation, but, like, he's like a white boy bro. So, like, you don't, like, he's not, like, the most sympathetic character Ger has ever played. And the Corky character is fucking gross. And actually, we didn't mention it, but the Corky character, the journalist will try to interview the Corky character at one point, and Corky will try to rape her in a parking lot, in public.
Right, after she pulls mace out on him.
Yeah, just like a gratuitous attempted rape scene that's like never addressed ever again. So like Ger's character is not the most sympathetic. And you have Corky, the horny jackass stoner who turns on Ger. We have the lawyer who doesn't care. We have the cops who are going out of their way to just pin this on Ger because he's the first face that they saw. So they're just imprinted on him, I guess. We have some random old lady in the building who's decided that like it must be Ger for reasons that we never hear about. We have Ger's wife's character who is telling strangers complete lies about what happened because people ask her like what did Ger see, and she's like, he didn't see anything. Well, we know he saw something because he called the cops. He's the whole impetus for them finding this woman dead. But the wife, like, to protect herself is like, he didn't see anything. Like, don't say anything to anybody. And I'm like, well, generally that's a good rule. But like, you're also contradicting, like,
what he already said.
So so it's like none of the characters in this. I mean, the journalist lawyer is like really like idealistic and enthusiastic and like she's like the least hateable character out of all of this. But like none of them are like super pleasant characters that like you super love. And like the movie like tells you like hard societal truths. So like it's not like I don't need every movie that Ger's in to be like super pleasant and I like everything that happens. I like all the characters. Like I'm having a good fun time. Like take off your shirt again. Like I don't need that. Like so I'm fine with Ikwe being a hard watch, but like it's a hard watch that's like dumb. Like it's like and all the First Nations characters are psychic. Like I'm like ugh.
Yeah, that was what I was getting at. Is it was just poorly done. Like we could have just told us a historically accurate story. Accurate story, but instead we went full like 90. That's not even the 90s, but we just went full
goofy
Native American mysticism instead of just letting it be about actual First Nations / Native
like
people.
The point of both of these movies is to show the audience something realistic and hard and make them think about it. And I'm like, okay, I appreciate that. Like, show me what race relations were like between Scottish fur traders and I don't remember the tribe that Ikwe's part of, but like First Nations people. Like, show me like the bad behavior on both sides. Show me the intercultural like struggles. Like, show me things that make me uncomfortable. That this is the history of my country. Like, show me hard things. I'm here for it. The same with in a paid vacation. Like, show me how overzealous policing can lead to terrible results and injustice. Like, show me these hard things. I'm here for you as the audience. Like, I want to see them.
Right.
But then in Ikwe, they're like, we don't know how to do that. So I don't know. They're magic and shit. I'm just like, okay, like. No, and like even that quote we saw from the director, she's like, I don't know, I just drove around with my truck and I honked the horn and like a bunch of First Nations people popped in Calgary and then we drove them to the film set and that was fine. Like, give a shit. And this movie gave a shit for all of its like weird 1970s yellow greenness and the absolute cock tease that is Ger being stripped in prison. for all that, it gave a shit, and I really appreciated that. And like, I wish I wish this movie were publicly available. Like I wish this were more available. I want people to try to find it. I want it to be re-released again. Like I mean a version of this that's not blurry with like the bottom jumping up and down the whole time and handmade AI subtitles. Like that sounds amazing. That sounds great. But we works with what we got.
He really went from Deadly Harvest, which was a post-apocalyptic movie about climate change, to The Cops Are Not Your Friends. He just had like a string of real depressing movies.
I think that's kind of everything in the 70s, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just...
Yeah. Yeah. It was the era for it.
I thought his acting in this was really good. Maybe like you said, because the interview was like, oh, I actually was miserable and uncomfortable the whole time, and like A+. So I wondered why in the opening credits they have Ger listed as like special guest star. Because at first I was like, was this like a series somehow? I don't think it was. I think it's a one-off movie. But now that we've been talking about it, I'm like, oh, is it because he's only in the movie for like 30 minutes out of like the hour long, and they're like, that makes you a special guest star. Gary. The interview bums me out a little bit. Like, you literally took the time to go, what is your name? And he told you, and you're like, nope, you're Gary.
He's like, okay, so Gary, got it. Good. Thank you.
So how would you rate this in terms of characteristics?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think I'm just going to go,
because we got the never-nude.
I'm going to go 1 out of 5. Because the only thing we got 1 raised eyebrow out of 5. Because we got the origin of wow, that was a really uncomfortable time for me trying to take my clothes off on that film set. I don't think I'm ever going to do that again, ever. In fact, every time they ask me, I'm going to put on another shirt until they figure out what I'm doing. And then other than that, nothing. He didn't get to be, no one told him he was pretty. They made fun of his hair because they're like, you have long hair, and he's like, it's long-ish. And he's like, long-ish, and he like runs his hand. Michael Ironside like touches his bangs, and he's like, get the fuck off me. And like that's the most contact he gets in the entire movie.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah. He doesn't. We don't. When we see him like hold his baby and then hold his very large 3.5-year-old, but I don't think we ever see him kiss the wife. There's no kiss in the hand while making eye contact. No one tells him he's pretty.
No.
I feel like him saying he flew should be a half point.
That's true.
Yeah, because he flies in Hush Little Baby.
Yeah.
The way he says flew, I was like, oh, he flew. He flew to a clue. I love it so goddamn much. I still maintain that we need to show up and at Stratford and give him a t-shirt that says CLEW. He's not going to know. He's not going to know what it is.
No.
But I just want to be like, put it on, sir.
You'd be
like, you like wearing more clothing, so this is up your alley. Wear another shirt on top of your shirt. More shirts.
If you want to understand what this is about, we've got a podcast you need to listen to.
He can't.
It's don't even just say GCGI. What does that stand for? I don't know. I've never even looked it up. But it's
just one of those acronyms, you know.
They talk about you in a couple of episodes.
I maintain that like I both want to be like, thank you for giving us this fun hobby that we now have. And also he can't know. Like,
he can't know.
If we show up and he's like, oh my God, GCGI, I'll die. I will actually, my heart will be like, your moment has come, and just.
It was a good life.
It was
end scene.
Whoa. I go to the white room and I never come back.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm sorry, what were we talking about? I need the clue and flu.
It was your turn to rate the movie.
Yeah. Well, okay. What was it? So you giving it a 1, not even a 1.5.
Yeah, because mine are based on the characteristics, and we're too young. Like, we're too little to have all the characteristics.
Yeah, but he flies. He flies.
He doesn't actually fly. He's joking about flying. But it's like, tell me I'm pretty. It's the raised eyebrow, like I'm in on a joke, but it's like a funny joke. There's a couple times where he does the raised eyebrow, but it's not the same.
Does he raise the eyebrow? I know he like laughs uncomfortably.
But it's not like it's not his knowing eyebrow. It's not his like, I know what I'm doing here. You know what I'm doing here.
Yeah,
We're
there
all
are
just
no
gonna have a
jokes in
good
this
time.
movie.
Yeah.
This movie has no
This
jokes.
movie has no. He doesn't get to be goofy. He doesn't. I mean, he's not never nude, which is like the one characteristic I'm giving this.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a bad mother. He doesn't have he doesn't have any of his like standard characteristics.
There are no Shakespeare quotes.
No Shakespeare. No women like fawning over him. No checking out anybody's assets. Nothing. He doesn't get to use any of his Ger mojo.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I still maintain that Flu should get a half point, but the fake flying and the origin, the core nugget of the never-nude.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's valuable for the characteristics because it's like seeing the birth of the man. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like here's where it begins. Here's the core of it. Okay, so you're giving it a 1. Because I locked myself into rating these on like how much I liked the whole property. I feel like maybe like is not the right word in this case, how much I like appreciate the movie. I really appreciate this, even though it's not enjoyable. It's good, and I'm happy to watch it, and it's valuable, but it's not like a fun watching experience, which is the point.
Right.
The point is that it's not a fun watching experience. So I want to give this a 7.25 sloppy wet kisses out of 10. Because it's really good. It's not enjoyable. I'm deducting a couple of points for the absolute blue balls. That is, Ger with his back sex scratched, which again I maintain was not part of the movie. That's pure improv. I maintain that those are his personal natural sex scratches. And just the hint of where a butt cheek was gonna be, and then the whole frame cuts out, which is just mean, just cruel. It's the 70s. You could have given me full flop and dick if you wanted to.
Yeah, if we'd just gone down just a little bit down further.
Yeah, I want the Euro cut of this movie.
Yes, the German version.
Yeah. Yes, the porno parody of this movie I am here for. I'm just putting that out there. You can still call it a paid vacation. That works too as a porno title.
Yeah,
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
So I recommend this, even though it's hard, and even though I know you are not going to be able to, unless you're, let's say, in the Forever Night Facebook group, which again, thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it. Unless you're
wild that she still had them.
Oh yeah.
Wild.
We just as like a little like preview of some stuff we're going to be looking at in the future. She had on her VHS tapes 2 episodes of shows that Ger guest starred in that nobody on the internet can find any clips of. Shows that are like apocryphal. One of them is called Matrix, not The Matrix. Matrix. It's from, I want to say like the late 80s, maybe. And one of them is called The Hidden Room. And it looks like it's sort of an Outer Limits type TV show. But those TV shows, if you Google them, people are like, is this real? Did this show really exist? I can't find proof of it anywhere. We have that now only because of Michelle. Only because of her. It's a miracle. I could not find them on my own. We even tried asking for them when we went to that the convention in Parsippany, where everyone was selling bootleg shit out of the back of their cars. And even they were like, no, we've never heard of this show. We have no idea. So the absolute gift that is Michelle. I cannot thank her. I cannot thank her enough. The gift that she's given to GCGI. Many sloppy wet kisses to her.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
So on that note, friends,
don't be a narc.
Don't be a fucking narc. Bye.
Don't tell him. Bye.